I watched this movie 3 times in 2 days. On Thursday, I watched it twice. I watched it in the morning and I watched it at night. And I liked it better. I'll say this. I liked it better the second time than the first time. To give you guys my simple, no spoilers, barely saying anything about the movie, I will say this. Everyone should watch this movie, but they should watch it with an open mind and not going in purely to love it or purely to hate it. Sit down, judge it for yourself. I think most people will find that they will at least like the film. Everything I've seen about this movie, the worst I've seen people say is, it's good. And the best I've seen people say is, it saved their life. Like, that is the type of movie this is. This is a film that is very divisive. And I think some of the best ways is in a way that because every comic book fan I know on Twitter is talking about it in a way that is very, okay, like, how do we feel about this part? How do we feel about this part? Well, this part's interesting. Well, let's dive into this part. It is some of the most mature conversations I've seen Twitter have in years. And about a comic book film. They actually are talking about it similarly to how people talk about comics. A little bit of everyone's opinion, no one really writing off anyone's opinion and going like, oh, you're an idiot for saying this or that's stupid. No, it's everyone going, well, I see it this way, but I can understand why you can see it like this. I think they undershot here and overshot here. And that's kind of the discussion I'm seeing for this film. I'm loving that it's opening up so much discussion like this, because I think the most important thing a film can do is get people talking. It can hit people emotionally, and whether it be positive or negative, and get people to discuss about it and say, well, why did it hit me like that? What's my issues with it? What do I love about it? You know, that's kind of what you want art to do. You want it to touch people instead of most Marvel movies where you watch it, you go, okay, and then you walk away and forget about it. No one's forgetting about this film, because everyone I talk to about this movie has had the same kind of like, oh, like they've had thoughts about it afterwards. If you're on the fence about watching it, watch it. Definitely watch it. I would encourage anyone to watch it. If you're a layman, and you don't know a lot about Superman, and you just want to watch a superhero movie, you'd love it. If you're a comic book fan, and you want to see a new take on Superman, I heavily encourage looking into it, watching it. Non-spoilers, these are my thoughts. I think it is a comic book movie. And I know there are so many movies where we say, oh, this really feels like a comic book movie. Oh, it's so colorful and weird. The parts of this movie that feel like a comic book movie isn't that it's colorful and weird. It's that it feels structured like a comic book movie. Some people have said, I think leakers, one of the cast, I can't remember, said this movie is very similar to Star Wars, and they're right. This movie starts with a text that's basically setting up what world we're entering in a very similar way that Star Wars does. In media res, it doesn't say, oh, we're going to show you the events from the beginning onward. It kind of starts not halfway through, it starts like a quarter into a story that's already happening. And a lot of people have said that's a negative. Personally, I really like it because Star Wars is the same. Star Wars starts with the ship is being invaded. You have no idea what's going on. Okay, there's a war. There's Sith, and okay, sweet. Just go in. You're thrown into this world, and this also feels like a world. The DCEU feels like like this isn't just like the MCU, which is our world with some tweaks. This is a comic book world that has been going on for centuries. It has such deep and rich lore and history to it, and you see it hinted at and shown throughout this movie. Superman is not the first superhero, and he's not out there. He's like, the reason he's out there and different is because of his actions, not his powers, not his suit. That's all very like, oh yeah, he's a superhero that can fly. Yeah, anyone. There's a ton of those. This is a world that is deeply rich with lore and has had already a bunch of stuff happening. And that to me is very Western comic books. The critique people say about going into this movie is the same critique I hear people say about comic books. They go into it, they're like, this is jarring. This is a story that's already happening. How am I supposed to know what's going on? And a comic book fan will tell you the same thing. There are enough context clues here for you to figure out what the story is and go along for the ride. And that's what this movie is. This movie feels like there's a new run of this character that's 3 or 4 issues in, and you're like, oh, I forgot to pick up the first 4 issues. I'll pick up issue 5. And you're in issue 5, and stuff's already happened, and the story's going, but you can still follow along, and you can read the next issue, and the next issue, and the next issue, and you'll get it. You'll get it. And that's comic books. This movie is a great, I think, introduction to how comic books are. It is a world that doesn't stop. the same way our world doesn't stop. There is no entry point to our world. It does a really good job of throwing you into the woods, and the viewer, some viewers are a bit like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? But I think as this DCU goes on, people are going to get comfortable with it. I got comfortable with it because, you know, I'm a comic book reader. I'm used to being thrown into like the middle of the ocean and being like, okay, I can swim here. And there are negatives and positives of that, because there is something that Superman does that is told, not shown to us. But again, that doesn't bother me too much. What also feels very comic booky is something that was taken out of the test screenings that they should have taken in, which is already discussed in length on Twitter, which is they were originally, like in the Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad has like chapter titles, like a book, like a comic book. You pick up a new issue, it's got a new title for this chapter. And originally this movie was going to have that. And it needed to have that, I think. You can see where they were going to be. I really hope there is a director's cut of this film, because there's certain things that are cut that we know was filmed and in that I would be interested in seeing come back to this film, because I think they would improve it. I think that they were very worried about this movie doing well, that I think they listened too much to audiences, and in doing so, they added some stuff and took out some stuff that I really think they shouldn't have. Like those title cards. There are no title cards in the movie, but you can feel where they were supposed to be, and I feel like if they were there, it would be a lot cleaner and a lot less jarring. It feels like a world already in motion with its own established lore, and with that, it's a world that feels like superheroes are normal. There are points in this movie where there'll be monster attacks or villains attacking Metropolis or whatever, and it's normal. Like, people don't really... Metropolis is like, oh, it's like a fire, like if a building catches fire, like that's a big deal. A building's on fire, people will die. Still gotta go to work. Like that's how this movie treats like aliens, kaijus, whatever. A lot of it is, yeah, well, you still gotta go to work. You still got some of the biggest stake stuff is like, that's a big deal. Everyone stops and runs. And some of it is like, there's a kaiju in near Central again. That's gonna mess with traffic. Like, and you just see at one point, you just see superheroes in the background like fighting a monster, and maybe just being like, oh yeah, that's just another thing. They have it covered. And it's like, yeah, they do. Like, they do have it covered, and that shows to the viewer, and a lot of people have taken from that, and to me, that, you know, this is just a world where this is normal. Superheroes are purely normal. It's a part of this society. And that all feels so comic booky to me. You also got the fact that you can have such serious, grounded things next to weird sci-fi things, but that are still treated seriously. The ending of this film has two conflicts. One which is based in reality, and I'll get to in a second, and the other which could only happen in a comic book or a out there sci-fi story. And both happen at the same time, and they work because you feel the stakes of both, and you have already by this film have led to believe, oh yeah, this is realistic for this world, so I can take it in. I can find that realistic. That's understandable. This movie does a great job at that. I think this movie does a really good job at setting up the DCU as just a world with stories in it. But in saying that, it also it actually does set up a storyline for the DCU that I'm so interested in seeing, that I kind of would rather see than just random stories set in this world. Because Gunn has said, oh, there's a storyline going through, but also some stories are just in this world in the background. And that's great. But the nugget of information this movie gives us of the greatest storyline that this phase of the DCU will have is so inherently fascinating, and is taken directly from a comic I just finished reading, that I am so excited to see where it goes. And it is an inherently political, like, talking point that is going to be just absolutely fascinating to see that string and to see where that string leads. Yeah, my 100% though, it throws you in. Even my sister, who knew nothing about DC, picked up on it really quickly. Yeah, uses common themes and tropes to invite people into without needless origin stories. 100%. I will say, that's another controversial part of it. That is one controversial part of this film. Is James Gunn is of the belief that people don't need to see a lot of superheroes' origin stories anymore. And I don't entirely agree, because I think each take of an origin story shows what you're getting into with this character, with the story. It would have benefited if we at least saw Clark coming out of the rocket this film, for an opinion I'll get to later. But I guess this movie didn't need to show Superman's origins, because it does a really good job of just explaining it and showing it to us anyway. I think the entire cast is fantastic. If I was going to say what's the most comic accurate and least comic accurate of these characters, from what I understand of these characters, from what I've seen, Guy Gardner's fantastic. Mr. Terrific takes the fucking movie. This movie, Mr. Terrific owns this movie. In one scene, it is a scene that I think is the most memorable action scene in the film. Is it the best? Maybe not, but it's the most memorable. It's the one that stayed in my head after every time I watched it, and it's the one I get so excited of seeing again. And it's an action scene halfway through that is so quintessential. Like, that's a James Gunn action scene. No other director could try to make that, and they would just be trying to copy James Gunn. And that action scene is given to Mr. Terrific. It's incredible. It's terrific. Like, legitimately amazing scene. He's done incredibly well. Hawkgirl, from what I've heard of Hawkgirl as a character, she's a bit undersold here. And yeah, she doesn't have a lot to do, except for one really cool thing she does at the end. Jimmy is not Jimmy, really. Like, Jimmy is supposed to be this kind of like, almost like Clark, this kind of like golly, like bright-eyed, very like, not the opposite of cynical. What's the opposite of cynical? Like, very optimistic, like photographer. Like, he's just very kind and very odd, and goes on a lot of strange adventures. And I don't see this Jimmy doing that. Just Jimmy is a straight man, and Jimmy shouldn't be a straight man. Jimmy should be the wacky, like doing some weird stuff, a bit strange, but very charming. And this Jimmy isn't that. This Jimmy is very normal, which is very disappointing. For the movie, charismatic, interesting, good character. As an adaptation of Jimmy, a bit disappointing. This adaptation of Lex Luthor is next to perfect. It's pretty much perfect. That's Lex. Like, that is Lex. That is the scariest comic book villain we've had in a while. It is one of the most accurate we've had in a while. It is acted incredibly well. All the villains from this movie are damn good. They're pretty damn good. I wish Engineer maybe got a little bit more time. Ultraman, I'll get to. Miss Techmaster. Her. I really liked her in this movie. Really funny, really charming. But then there's the big two. This is the most accurate Lois Lane we've ever gotten in anything. Full stop to me. Full stop. That is everything Lois Lane should be. Next to perfect Superman. Because it depends on your interpretation of Superman. Because to me, there are two different takes of Superman you can have. And these are two takes that I think are accurate, not inaccurate. There are other takes you can have that I feel like are stepping away from the comic books and kind of the original intention of the character. There are two takes. One I favor, one I still love. And the movie does one I still love, not the one I favor. And that is a Superman who is loving and caring and kind and soft and noble and a bit of a nerd and a farm boy and gee willikers. He's that kind of Superman. He is Clark Kent in both ways. Superman and Clark Kent are very... that's the one issue maybe I will have, is that there wasn't enough Clark Kent, and there wasn't enough distinct differences between Clark and Superman. Like, that was basically the same. Like, visually, sure, characteristics-wise, they felt like the same person. But it was a Superman that is, if I were to compare it to anything, I would say Superman of All Seasons is an accurate representation, which is this movie takes a lot of inspiration from. I wouldn't say All-Star Superman. They say the movie takes a lot from All-Star Superman. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it takes that much. I think it takes way more from Kingdom Come than it does from All-Star Superman. Or Superman Birthright in ways that I don't like, and I'll get to that. But this version of Superman is a great version, not my favorite take. I think out of the classic interpretations of Superman, I really like the Golden Age to like Superman and the Mole Man standing up, taking bullets, like crushing guns, and being like, you're all a bunch of cowards, like using your anger to oppress other people, and you just stop. Like, that's my favorite interpretation of Superman. Someone who's kind to people who need kindness, and stern and mean to those that deserve it. And I don't see this Superman ever being mean or stern. Stern, maybe, yes, but not necessarily mean. I'm over halfway through reading Superman Birthright, written by Mark Waid. I don't have the book on me. I can't remember who the artist is, which is a shame because the art is fantastic. And that book has a moment where there is a school shooting that Clark interrupts. And after stopping the kids and crushing the guns, he finds out who sold the guns to these kids, grabs a gun, shoots the man, and catches the bullet before it hits him, to basically show this is the fear you put those children in, and now you will know that fear for the rest of your life. That is my personal favorite take on Superman, which is Superman and the Mole Man. It's the Golden Age era. Reeves is kind of a good combination of both. This take on Superman is a bit more, it is very inspired by the 80s. And if you know 80s Superman, take that as you will. Yeah, you might know what I'm trying to say here. I still like this interpretation of Superman, have some issues with it that I'll get to in spoilers, because I literally cannot discuss it without discussing spoilers. There's two cameos in this. One I knew about, one I did not know about. The one I knew about, yeah, it was sick. I knew it was coming. And we knew about that months away. It was bound to happen anyway, because something else is happening. And it's like, well, obviously they're going to show up. The other is one I wasn't expecting to show up in this movie at all. And every cinema I've been to laughed their asses off at it. They were like, oh my god! Like, everyone had the same reaction that I did, which was, oh my god, it's him? That's hilarious. Like, it is a character I didn't even realize a lot of people knew about. What else? Is there anything else I can say that's non-spoiler? Non-spoiler, here we go. There are two things in this movie that are inherently political. One is something that a lot of people were assuming from the trailer going in and were worried whether they would handle it right. And the other is something that I don't think Gunn realized would be heavily political. And he fucked up. The first one is the scene we saw in the trailer with the little boy in the flag. I will say this right now. This is probably spoiler, non-spoiler, whatever. A lot of people on Twitter are saying that this movie is very pro-Palestine and very anti-Zionist. And I went into this movie worried, because how are you going to portray that well? How are you going to do that in a big budget blockbuster film? Like, I didn't see that happening. It was. This movie, if you read it as talking about Palestine and Israel, it takes a stance that I have not seen a blockbuster do. Now, I have seen people say you could also read it as other invasions, because at the same time of writing that, Russia invaded Ukraine, and you could definitely see some inspiration from that here. But also, a lot of people were bringing up what happened in Palestine in 2018 with, I can't remember the specific word of it, but there was an image someone posted online of Palestinians at the border versus the Israeli army that is very much imagery in this film that you cannot ignore. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gunn took it from a few places, but specifically it does feel inspired by that. And shockingly, I think the movie does a great job of addressing it. The other issue that I think it has a terrible job addressing is to do with the idea of Superman as an immigrant. But the second thing was something I don't think James Gunn fully understood the political ramifications of what he was saying. And I think it's something that heavily harms this film to the point where this would be a 9 out of 10 for me. But now is 7, and sometimes when I think about it a lot, is 6. Dead honest, sometimes it's 6. It really bothered me, and I can only talk about it with spoilers. Superman as a character was created by 2 immigrants. People who created the character during a very politically volatile time in history. It was right before World War II. It was when Jews were being pressed in Europe, or around the world, honestly, and people had to run from their home countries. It is about a refugee who had to leave his home planet in order to survive. His family never being able to have a relationship with him personally. He loses any knowledge about where he comes from. He feels this deep regret of not being able to experience that culture, of being able to meet his family, to see what his culture's like. It is a character that, as a second-generation immigrant, I have found very relatable. I have been in situations where I feel this longing of, I wish I was closer to this culture that I only know of through talking of my family. And Clark is someone who only knows about Krypton through talkings of text he's given, through maybe what his father tells him. He will never be there, he will never live there. He is Kryptonian, but a part of him feels like, am I really Kryptonian? Is that am I worthy to call myself a Kryptonian? It is that feeling that I have felt being with other members of my family who have lived in that country or continue to live or had large amounts of their time in that country, and I have never. I've only maybe been to that country once, or I only experience it from their perspective. And I get this kind of sense of, am I an outsider in this place, in this family gathering? I walk two worlds. I'm Australian and I'm an immigrant, from a family of immigrants. And that is the dual identity I hold. I never pick one over the other. I don't say I don't abandon my immigrant side and just say I'm fully Australian. I am just an Aussie. I am Australian. But I also don't go, no, I'm not Australian. I'm not Australian at all. Australia means nothing to me. I am purely this country. These are both of me. To separate one from me is to separate me. Like, that is taking something apart of me that has heavily affected who I am as a person. And Superman as a character, that is, I would say, his struggle of, I feel like an outsider to both humans and to my own kind. That is an innately relatable thing for an immigrant and from a second generation immigrant. He's also a story that is innately relatable to a refugee. Someone who could not go back to his home and cannot come back to his home. Maybe it's gone. Maybe he simply has no way to go back there. I'm not a refugee, so I can't personally speak from it. But I have read so many cases, and I've read so many people breaking it down of how relatable and how seen they feel in Superman. This movie, to me, throws all of that away. To me, this movie feels inherently insulting, quite disgusting with its political message on that aspect, and is my biggest gripe with this movie that I can already see is having a negative effect online. People are taking the wrong message from it, and it's the message I was worried people would take, and I think it's the message James Gunn didn't think people would take. In this movie, Jor-El and Kara sent Clark to Earth to conquer it. They are aliens who sent their child to another place to invade, reproduce, and lead them. That was disgusting to me. That shocked me. And in the film, they kind of play with the idea that it's fake. Maybe it's fake. Maybe it's this fake message. Because it only happens about 30 minutes into the film. It's a revelation that everyone finds out, even Clark finds out, because Lex goes into the Fortress of Solitude. Clark has this broken message from his father and mother about what they want from him. And the first half is very hopeful. It's very loving. It's saying, I want you to live out there. I want you to try to make humanity better. And the second half is make it better by ruling them with an iron fist. And it's disgusting. And it kind of makes you think, oh, Lex doctored this. They make it seem like this footage is fake at first. Like Clark says, well, maybe it's mistranslation because Lex translated it. How can Lex translate it? Okay, yeah, he's one of the smartest people in the world, sure. But how? Okay, maybe the footage is fake. Maybe Lex faked stuff. But then 5 minutes after introducing the movie goes, no, this is real. Because Mr. Terrific says, no, I know these forensics guys. They wouldn't say something's real unless it's real. Which is a little like, huh? But how would they know it's real? Lex admits to the Bulgarian president, and the Bulgaria is the stand-in for Israel in this movie. The Bulgarian president, he admits, no, that's real footage. I don't have to doctor anything. And a part of me knows, as a comic book fan that knows Lex Luthor could be lying through his teeth because he wants the world to believe that Superman is evil innately and an alien here to kill all of us. So I think he would continue to lie about this. Even when he's caught false for other stuff, I think he would continue to lie about this. But the movie had multiple points where they could have debunked this footage. It could have been, at length, something Mr. Terrific started looking into and realizing it was fake. It could have been something that when Lois and Jimmy out Lex at the end of the movie, it could have been something that they looked at and found out is fake. It could have been at the end of the movie when, again, spoilers, Supergirl shows up, which ruled. But it could have been at that moment, Supergirl could have seen the footage and goes, because Supergirl, the thing about Supergirl that people might not know, is she was a child or teenager already when Krypton was about to blow up. And she was sent as such. And she was sent at the same time as Clark, but her ship got lost around the sun. and it put her in stasis, and she didn't age for years and years and years. When she did eventually arrive on Earth, Clark was a fully grown adult. She was supposed to be the older cousin, and now he's older than her. And she has this connection with Krypton that Clark will never have, that Clark feels somewhat a bit, in some interpretations, I believe he's felt quite jealous of. But she knows Kryptonian. She can speak Kryptonian. She can read Kryptonian. She's aware of Kryptonian culture. If they were going to say it's fake, that would have been the moment they did it. At the very end of the film, it would have been Kara being like, that's not what that says. That's not what that says at all. And then she says it means something. It means this, which is hopeful and a much different interpretation. But that's not what happens. Now, I don't have an issue with Krypton themselves being corrupt. My Adventures of Superman, from what I remember, does a very similar thing of Krypton are invaders. They are disgusting, like warmongers, from what I remember. They are not good people. But Jor-El is, to what I remember, or at least regrets the path that their planet has come to, and wants Clark to be better than him. If they're going to do Krypton being warmongers or such a thing, that's the take I would want. Because the idea of looking at it from the metaphorical standpoint and what it's trying to say, and to say before the movie comes out, for James Gunn to say, this is the story of an immigrant, and to say, yes, this immigrant came from a society that were conquerors and sent him here to conquer us. He is a secret invader that he didn't realize. And that is a racist stereotype. That is a horribly racist, disgusting thing to do with the character, because it also confirms Lex's fear that the aliens are here to invade and kill us all, which is not the case. Clark was not here to do that. Clark was here, he was sent out of desperation. Again, the real world allegory to that is a refugee sent to another country to be safe, and racists and people who can't get out of their own head going, no, you're here to do something more sinister. You're here to do something evil. You're here to take me down. You are my enemy, and I will take you down. And this movie gives those people ammo. And I think it also has this terrible message at the end that look, the ending of the film made me tear up a bit because it made me think of my family. But I couldn't get that image out of my head of what it was trying to do. And it's what stopped the ending from really hitting with me. Because in the early parts of the film, Superman shows that when he's healing with the sun's rays, he puts on footage of his family's recording to soothe him. End of the movie, they do the same thing. They say, oh, let me put on footage of your family recording, except it's the Kents now. And it's his family, and it's his memories with the Kents, it's videos and photos, which is very cute, but reads, as a second-gen immigrant, reads as, yes, forget your family, forget the people that sent you here to try to protect you, accept America, accept the people that took you in only, and abandon your culture. That is how that read to me. And it grossed me out. I hated it. Now, in saying that, I can see an argument for it. I'll say right away, I don't think it is a storyline that works for Superman at all. But to play devil's advocate, if you are an orphan, or if you are someone who loves found family, or feels found family is very important to you, this is a story that will be, I think, hit you very hard. Because I think as an orphan, if you watch this and you go, okay, it doesn't matter who my family or my birth families was. It doesn't matter who birthed me. It's about who raised me, who looked out for me, who taught me my ethics. It's about who. It only matters who loved me and continues to love me. For an orphan story, that's great. That's beautiful. For an immigrant story, it is a very white take, I will say. From an immigrant's point of view, it can also be relatable to have this culture that you've never been attached to, that you feel like you've always had a wanting to know more, and that you've also been very proud of. You are proud of this culture, you are proud of where you came from, and you wish you knew more, but you never have. To then learn that this culture that you once praised is a lot filthier than you thought it was. It is a lot grimier. It is something probably not to be as strongly proud of, and it's conflicting. And then you can then take that culture as an immigrant and go, then I'm going to take the good parts of it, and I'm going to live through that. And I'm going to take the person I am now and who I am in this moment, and I'm going to continue to try to do good as me. And I think that is a take that is somewhat relatable and that I can see. I've had a similar relationship with my own culture, and I found out something about my culture that very much shocked me and made me feel very gross about something I thought I should be very proud of. And I have very conflicting thoughts about it. So on that standpoint, I can find it very relatable. But the very important distinction to make about Superman is that, yes, he's an immigrant, but he's specifically a refugee. He is specifically someone sent by a scared family as a last-ditch effort in the hope that their baby will live, sent out into the cold confines of space to find a home that will keep him safe. He is a refugee story, first and foremost. Relatable to immigrants. I find relatable as an immigrant allegory, but as an immigrant tied to being a refugee. And as an allegory for refugees, this movie made me mad. Like, legitimately, it is a terrible message to make. But in saying that, I don't think it's a purposeful message. I think a lot of people, specifically non-immigrant people, and not just white people, because, non-immigrants is not just a thing where like only white people are non-immigrants. There are people around multiple countries who are not immigrants and probably won't see an issue with this story. But there are people who are immigrants in a lot of countries that will see this. And I was interested because I talked to my friends, and I'm an immigrant, and I knew someone else is an immigrant, and I was interested to see what they took away. And they took away a different message from them. As a non-immigrant, they saw something that touched them very close in a way it didn't touch me, which is important. I think it's good that something beautiful did come from this movie, and that people felt seen and were inspired. I'm just interested to see the thought processes between immigrants and non-immigrants when it comes to this film. Because I am seeing a lot of non-immigrants on Twitter not see what the issue is and be like, no, this is a fine change. And a lot of immigrants and refugees saying, no. I don't think you realize how deeply this affects the core of the character and the message this movie is now trying to say. Because look at what Mark Wade posted. I've retweeted on my Twitter. Oh my god. What a I will pull it up on stream. And I love Mark Wade. I love Mark Wade so much. He's a great writer, really understands Superman. But this blew me away at how gross it felt. It's in relation to Dean Cain. And if you don't know who Dean Cain is, Dean Cain was a actor who played Superman in the 90s, who is the only Superman actor I know who is a Trump supporter, like full and through. Please don't listen to the former actor Dean Cain and his attention-starved cohorts, okay? Despite what conservative media wants to believe, the message of the Superman movie is not rah-rah immigrants, okay? It's look at the amazing values, ethics, and morals someone not from here, no matter their native land, can learn from people who are good and kind Americans. How is that not the most patriotic message imaginable? This is someone who is not an immigrant, not understanding the issue. Hey, Future Gurich here, different camera setup, don't think about it too much. I don't think I articulated myself very well at this part of the stream, so I thought I'd re-record it and kind of say more about what I'm trying to say about this post. The reason why this post bothers me so much is because, and maybe Americans, and specifically white Americans and non-immigrant Americans, won't see the issue in this, but the issue is that it feels like it is trying to say and implying that these are values that you can't learn outside of America. He's trying to say that America is filled with kind, nice people, and you can learn to be a kind, nice person here. But that's not how this reads to someone who's not American and someone who is a second-gen immigrant. It implies that they wouldn't learn that there. It implies that this is something that is uniquely American, which is wrong and feels wrong and feels a bit gross. I don't know this. Maybe Mark didn't mean to imply that, or maybe he kind of subconsciously. I don't want to say anything. Again, Mark Wade is a writer I got a lot of respect for. I love a lot of his books. His Fantastic Four run is one of my favorite runs of the characters, or any runs of any character ever. I really like every Superman book I've picked up from him. but this is a take I don't really like and I don't agree with, and feels a little gross. It feels a little gross, a little upsetting. But I really do think that James Gunn did not mean to make such a rash, gross message in his film. I think he had good intentions. I think this is the message he usually puts in most in his film, which is found family. He seems to have a big issue with birth parents, and I don't think he's adopted, but he seems to love his parents, so I'm not sure where that comes from, but his work, it shows. Guardians has it, the Suicide Squad has elements of it, I mean, Peacemaker has it fully. The idea of like, your birth parents, you don't have to believe them, but these adoptive parents and these people that are like your parents, like, they love you. I think he had good intentions, but it is very obviously a idea that a non-immigrant had. It is an idea of, oh, what if Krypton was bad? What if Jor-El was, and Kara was evil and had bad intentions? I think only an immigrant would think that. Sorry, not an immigrant. I think only a non-immigrant would think that. That's not a one-to-one rule. I think there are some immigrants that do not realize the power that change would have. And I think there are a lot of non-immigrants that will realize the power that change would have. I know in the US for older immigrants, it is rather common to have the view. Yeah, this is true. I know it is rather common to have the viewpoint of, if you come here the right way and do right things, you'll be all right. 100%. There are a lot of immigrants that have this kind of viewpoint based on a form of trauma of having to conform to society and being like, you have to do it right. You have to do what the American way. You have to do it. Like, that's another thing, good reason why they took out the American way. There are a lot of immigrants that go into like, you have to be a good immigrant. You have to listen to the rules. You have to follow everything right. You can't antagonize. You have to conform. You have to conform. You have to conform. And that's the message this film feels like it's giving. It feels like the ending is looking at the camera and saying, and make sure you conform and are proud of this country, America. And that made me feel gross. And it is of American culture I can think of is based on immigrant culture and Black American culture. Yes, exactly that. Okay, this is also such a showing point of how political Superman is as a character, because we started this review talking about like the wacky alien stuff and goofy, crazy characters that show up, and ended it talking about the political ramifications of what culture really is and what it means to be white and what it means to be an immigrant. Like, that is comic books. That is Superman. Superman is an innately political character that will always have these politics attached to him. I will say, even after saying all this, even after feeling this way, this kind of gross feeling in my stomach every time I watch this movie, those scenes play on, and I'm trying to find a way to justify it, but I just can't. Even in saying that, this movie is still very, very good. That's how incredible it is. Like, that it has this bad of a thing in it, but I'm still willing to defend it. Because even though it misses that bad, the other political thing, the allegory for Israel and Palestine, that is handled much better. Superman, before the film, stops a war. They say war, genocide from happening. Superman stops another country from invading another under grounds that have no concrete to them. The movie is going off the political ramifications of that choice. And in an interview between Lois and Superman, Lois says, like, well, you know, the country said they had reasons, that country is politically volatile and dangerous, and Bulgaria, who's the country that invades, has good ties with the US, and Clark basically goes, yeah, but you know that's all. He doesn't say bullshit because he's that's another reason this take is a bit iffy for me. It's a take on Superman where he's like, I don't swear, I say like, that's very silly, instead of saying that's bullshit. And like, I like Country Boy Superman, but sometimes I think Superman should say, you're bullshitting me. I think sometimes Superman should say that, because really, that's what he says. He says, that's bullshit. We all know that's bullshit. They are not defending themselves. They are like, no matter what history that other country has, there is no justification for another country invading it and committing genocide. Like, the movie puts its foot on the ground and says, this is wrong. There is no, you can try to find some way around it politically, and you can go, well, you know, they're friends with America and blah, blah, blah. It does not matter. Like, Clark kills the conversation very quickly, like he does in the trailer, by just saying people were going to die. And that is the most important part about this. It was wrong, and he stepped in, and he stopped it. And the stuff with that, done very well. It feels like they got 90% of the political messaging correct, but man, that 10% does sound... Yeah, it's like you've got, like when you're brewing a spirit. And when you brew a spirit, you have all this alcohol coming down and dripping down. And 95% of it is alcohol. And only 5% of it, a tiny amount, is methanol at the very bottom of the glass. But that 5% is enough to kill someone. Is enough to do very bad damage to people. And that's what that feels like to me. It is 95% of a beautiful whiskey with 5% of methanol that makes me regurgitate a little and go, what the fuck? And it's damn good whiskey. And if you take out the methanol, it's a perfect whiskey. But it's there. It's a small part, but it has a massive taste to it that leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. But overall, and crazy to say this after going on that big rant, overall, I do like this movie. I cried multiple times. There are elements of it that I think are very endearing. I think it's an important message of hope, of love. There is a line in this movie that is I love, which is Lois saying how punk rock she is versus how Clark is. And Lois saying how you're always so loving and caring and kind to everyone you meet. And Clark saying, well, maybe that's the real punk rock. And yeah, that got me a little. Because it is now in the society subversive to be kind and loving to people. To look at your neighbor and to talk to them. To just not be cynical is against the grain now. It is something people need to fight to be and learn to be. And I think that is a beautiful message for this movie. Like, you can have a family member who you thought always had good viewpoints on things, and then suddenly learn they voted for Trump and having to grapple with that not being able to leave them. I think this movie is probably very relatable for a lot of white people because it kind of plays into white guilt. If I'm being honest, it plays into this view of like, oh my god, my family, the people that came before me are terrible. And it's saying like, well, that doesn't mean you're terrible. And again, yeah, that is something that a lot of people might find relatable. And being like, okay, just because the people around me are terrible, just because I was raised by terrible people doesn't mean I'm terrible. I can be better. I can do better. I can be a good person. I can help the people around me. Which again, is a good message. But not for Superman. That's my major issue in this. If this was a different superhero, if this was a different movie, I don't have an issue with the message. Well, I have an issue with the message still. But less of an issue. The fact that it's attached to Superman himself is such a negative to me. Which I feel can dull when it has such a strong message against war and invasion. Definitely. There's a quote by Grant Morrison that says that Superman did not come from Hope Comics, it came from Action Comics. And people are very sick of seeing just hope. Oh, I have hope. Hope is nothing without action. To just sit here and be like, wow, I have a lot of hope that things will turn out better is nothing. That's nothing. And this movie does try to show with the Justice Gang that by the end of it, they turn on their kind of corporate feel and go, no, we're going to do good. And the people being invaded, at the end, about to be invaded, the Justice Gang stepped in. And it's saying that Superman's hope and kindness encourage them to do good. But I think my personal favorite take on Superman is when he inspires people to be good. Shin Ultraman and Godzilla -1 had more feeling of a hope at the end of it. It made me feel like I wanted to go out there and do good and do better and be better and encourage people and help people. And that is because Ultraman as a character has this tie to him that he's not a god. That he is simply here to help humans and to lead them into like doing something good. And Shin Ultraman ends in not Ultraman saving the day, but humanity coming together to save the day, to save the planet. It is because of their courage and their hope and their efforts that they were able to save their planet. With the help of Ultraman, but really humans are the ones that saved it. Ultraman was just someone to help inspire them to do good and go out there and help. It even touches on in the movie that people feel hopeless next to Ultraman, thinking like, well, if Ultraman can't defeat it, what am I gonna do? And then Ultraman gets defeated. And people go, well, I guess we give up and we die. And Ultraman, I forget who it was, says, no, we need to be like Ultraman. We have to go there. We have to save the world. Godzilla -1 has that ending of people coming together to come and stop Godzilla. Not even as a country, as people coming together to do an act of good. helping one another, one hand in front of the other, saving the world from Godzilla. People saved it. So at the end of this film, to inspire that feeling of hope, or to go out there and to do good and to be good, and that the world can be better, I wanted this movie to make people go, I can help. But it didn't, because the people who saved the day were superheroes. I kind of hoped that at the end of this film, it would be a lot of humans coming together to stop the threat. It would be maybe humans coming together to stop the invasion. Maybe to shit on Lex, to put Lex down, to come and help Superman. I don't think this movie shows that very strongly, and I think its message struggles for that. Because I even seen on social media, I saw someone say that the movie made them sad because it reminded them that in real life, no one's going to come and save us like Superman. And that is the opposite of what a Superman story should tell you and should give you. It shouldn't give you this loss of hope that there's no one here like Superman. It should make you go, well, if Superman's not real, I'll be Superman. It should make people go, I'm going to step up and I'm going to do good and I'm going to help any way I can. That's what a Superman story should do. It should inspire hope in yourself and in your friends and family and the people you're with to go out and help people. And hope as well that you're not the only one fighting. It's not an effortless fight. There are other people around you helping you and fighting with you and for you. And this movie, I think, didn't nail that. Didn't really nail that. So, a lot of thoughts. In saying all that, which I've already said, but in saying all of that, my final thoughts on the film is, go and watch it. Make your own opinion on it. Like I said, even people who have that massive issue, the movie's just so good at the heart of it that it comes off as a 6 at worst. And a 6 is still pretty good. It's still a good film. Not a perfect film. It's a film I'll probably watch a 4th time. It's a film that'll probably encourage a lot of good things in people. It'll probably help a lot of people. But it's not a perfect film. But it is a film I think a lot of people need right now. And I saw a tweet that said, maybe I think it's more important what the movie was trying to do rather than what it did do. And it was trying to instill hope, and it was trying to say something, and in that way it kind of did. And it started a conversation. And it's going to help people help people. It's almost similar to me on the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. People wanted it to be further left-leaning, harder takes, but if he went too hard, he wouldn't have been able to do the halftime show. They would have taken it from him. So he did as much as he did. Could it have been more? Sure. But really, it couldn't have been. But it was enough because the second that halftime show got off air, everyone was breaking apart. Everyone was talking about it, and it did what it was supposed to do. It started a discussion, and it got people talking, and it got people thinking. And that's what I think this movie will do. It will get people talking and get people thinking, and the discussion will come up. And I think for that, I like this movie. I will get it on Blu-ray. I will watch it again in the cinemas. I will watch it with anyone who asks me if they want to watch it. I will encourage people to watch it and make their own decision. I still think 78 is a better film than this. Maybe it's my nostalgia. Maybe it's just I prefer the take of Superman. I think Superman the Mole Man is my favorite film interpretation of the character, whereas Superman and Lois is my favorite take on Superman as a character as a whole. But this movie is pretty fucking good. It is pretty damn good. I think it's a good source of inspiration for younger people, 100%. But it is not a force of change, definitely. I do believe it's still a force for good, but yeah, it gives people hope that the world will not turn to shit. It's something that kind of Superman 4 left me with. Superman 4 ends with Superman giving a speech of, like, the world is just out how it should be, Lex. With good and evil battling each other, teetering on each edge. And every time evil teeters a little bit up, good will teeter over it. That's something people need to be reminded. Every time it looks dour, good will always come. Maybe not equal, but there is always good. I have to remember that entertainment is an activism, definitely. And nothing sponsored by big corporations can really lead radical action. It can't lead radical action, that's true, but I do think it can start a discussion, and discussions lead to action. But I think this will do good for a lot of people. They could have done more, but I'm surprised they did what they were able to do. But exactly of what do you expect from big corporate? Like, it's still art, but it's also corporate entertainment. There's only so much it can be. I do think that even small things can lead to more action. Definitely. It's the butterfly effect. Or it's one domino going at a bigger domino and a bigger domino. And people usually use that as a negative effect of one small bad thing going to a bigger thing, doing a bigger thing to a bigger thing. But it's the same with good. One small good thing can lead to another good thing, which can lead to another good thing, which can lead to something great. And I think this movie is a domino. This movie is a domino. It is the first innately political superhero blockbuster in a while. And I think it's going to encourage a lot of other films to be a bit more political, maybe, hopefully. God, please. And I think it's going to start the tipping point for a lot of people. I think it's going to start people into discussions into, well, how can I be that? How can I be better? And I think we are seeing a lot of people wanting to fight. Maybe that's just me being too hopeful. Maybe that's just me hoping for the best and hoping it leads this way. But again, hope's the name of the game right now. Hope's the name of the game with this movie. So that's all just in my head. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to see you guys. I'm going to go read. Oh, quickly before I go. If this movie makes you want to read more comics or makes you want to read a better representation of Superman, read Superman Birthright, read Superman vs. the Klan, or Smash vs. the Klan, and read Kingdom Come. This movie takes a lot from Kingdom Come. The ending, which is the government realizing that the metahumans might have control over this planet more than the politicians do, that is taken straight from Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come isn't perfect, but very interesting story. I recommend reading it. That's all I gotta say. Inject that hopium straight into your veins. Try to be better people. Try to be the best person you can be. Try to do good. Bye.